Hi, I'm Cindy. Cindy Rios-Myers, that is. Thank you so much for joining us for another half hour to talk to you about homeschooling in Pennsylvania. I've got my friends here.
I'm Jess Williams.
I'm Samantha Lee.
Yes, and we're ready to talk to you about common questions that are asked of us by homeschoolers and non-homeschooling families. And I think we'll jump right in. One that I have here is, how do you teach a subject that you don't know well? And I've got a couple ways to answer that. A phrase we use at home a lot is called building familiarity. And that can apply to anything. It can apply to your student. It can apply to yourself. It can apply to you when you go to the Pennsylvania.gov website for homeschooling and you see the rules on there. It's this document that's in a Courier New font. There's no paragraphs. There's no bullets. There's no numbers. It's just page after page of the rules. But there are other websites which we will provide links to in this video cast about where you can go to interpret those laws. But in any case, getting back to building familiarity, let's say you don't know a lot about algebra. There's Khan Academy, which is a website. You could go to YouTube as well, and you can just slow down and take your time. You know, you see this new concept, print it up. You know, leave it on your desk. Look at it a couple of times a day. The more you look at it, the more comfortable you're going to grow with it, and you're going to build confidence, and you'll be able to do that. If that doesn't happen, there are tutors out there. There are other homeschooling moms out there who are former teachers themselves who can give you a hand with that.
Or a spouse.
Or a spouse. Or a spouse. Thank God for my husband in fractions.
They're a big part of it. I don't think they often get the credit.
For sure.
It is a team venture.
It is for sure. So yes, that's how you teach a subject that you don't know well. Build familiarity. Ask for help when you need it.
Yes.
Okay. What do you have there?
So often we're asked about socialization. How do you get your kids to interact with others? And they think that we just sit at home and that we don't have friends. But there are a lot of community programs. We do gym with others. There's just events, and you are great at that.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks.
So that's how we socialize, and you can do as much as you want or as little.
Yes.
Socialization by its very nature. I mean, we socialize by living. You know, it's sort of what we do. So it's just a different type of socialization that children get at school, at public school rather, I should say. But yeah, I feel like socialization is one of those like trigger words that has never gone away, and but it's very antiquated in its thinking. We do. It's really whatever we want to make it. You know, our children interact with people, and not just children that are their age, for a designated period of time. You know, they really get to interact with a variety of ages, genders, races. That's exactly what the goal is to make them a whole person. You know, they can contribute, because where else in life, other than in school settings, do we see where we stay with our age group and our, you know what I mean? So I think it's less about socialization that they're looking for, and more a sort of conformity, I guess, that happens. You know, and I don't want that for my children. So that's part of, you know, why we create these other events and opportunities for them to socialize.
Well, and even grocery shopping is socializing.
Yeah.
And they get that experience. That's something else with homeschooling, is they get that real life experience. So, you know, not a lot of kids go grocery shopping with their parents.
Yes.
And that's just something we do, and we actually enjoy the time.
Yeah.
And they're chatting people up.
Yes.
And
Yeah, for sure. And echoing on what Sam said, I mean, where else in the world are you going to make sure that you're going to work into, you know, you go to college and you'll work at a hospital and everybody else is 42 years old? That doesn't happen. Like a great experience we have is within my son's piano class. We go to our piano teacher's home, and my son is there with the teacher as well as with her children as well. And so he has an experience where he's learning something, but he's also watching other kids, because he's an only child, that are younger than him, and he's learning how to be friendly and kind and engaging with all sorts of people who are just not in his age bracket, as well as other life experiences as well. But that's a big socialization. We hear that one a lot. What do you have over there, Sam?
Oh, okay. So how do you homeschool if you have a baby or a toddler? Not easily. It's very important to, again, not get too caught up in the idea of your day looking and mirroring exactly what you're used to in a public school setting. It looks a little different. I have had 3 children in 3 years, so they're very close in age. sometimes they're best friends, other times they can't stand each other. So each day for us looks a little bit different. Now that they're getting older, you know, I have a third grader, a first grader, and a kindergartner now. My third and first grader can work pretty well together. My kindergartner, you know, age appropriately can sit for a certain amount of time, but after that he's pretty much spent. And I'm okay with that as long as he touches on his, you know, the core subjects that I want him to learn for the day. I'm okay with him taking a break, you know, an age appropriate break to go build Legos, to go, you know, play, whatever it might be, because there's a lot of learning involved in play too. I mean,
Absolutely.
children's work should be play, I believe. There's a lot of learning that takes place in unstructured play. So, and then that way he's not providing a distraction to his
Yes.
brothers. If there are certain topics, you know, at least in our household, if there are certain topics like science or geography, some of our more elective type, you know, not our core, you know, like math, reading, and language arts, I will teach them together with my third and first grader, always to the third grader's level, so
Yes.
so that he doesn't lose anything,
Yeah.
True.
but the first grader's gaining information,
Yes.
and try to keep it as age appropriate as I can, you know. And then the benefit in that too is that my older child will have an opportunity to help his brother as there are moments where his brother doesn't understand. I really can see if he is retaining it, because he will then try to help his younger brother, and that shows me that there's comprehension there as well.
Yes.
So that's how we run our day with it. But you know, no, I haven't had a baby teaching in a while. You know, now that we're getting into older subjects, I imagine that would be even more challenging. They still nap, so hopefully there's you can kind of time it around that too.
Yes.
But yeah, and it depends. You know, we have 3. There's some families who homeschool that have 8, and
Yes,
you know, so
yes.
it's
And they
really
do it
different
well.
for each. They
Yes,
do.
they do.
Yeah, it's
They
really
do.
different for each family.
Yeah.
But that's how we always would do it.
I know. I think what's, you know, I just have an only child, but from what I've seen, it can be done. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you adjust your schedule accordingly. You know, maybe math is going to happen at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
instead of 9:30 in the morning, but it can be done.
Or on a Saturday,
Or on a
you know,
Saturday,
again,
that's
the
right.
flexibility of that is
Yes.
wonderful. We're not
Yeah.
stuck into a certain time and days of the week that we have to do it. As long as the learning takes place, you know, we can.
Yeah, that's for sure. Another question I received is, how do you get books and materials? Are they expensive? They can be. They can get expensive. You can spend as little or as much as you want. Actually, maybe you're going to spend something. You're going to have to do it, at least get your pencils and your notebooks and whatnot if you're doing traditional homeschooling. But you can get used textbooks on eBay. You can get books on Amazon as well. You can check out books from the library. And depending on how many they have in stock and whatnot, and you can probably try to check them out again if you need to. Thank God for the internet, you know.
Yes. And Amazon. I just want to say Amazon
Yeah.
is amazing too.
Yeah.
Yes, for
You
sure.
can get anything you need.
And I
Science
just-
kit tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'd like to give them a nod too, because we're in Bethel Park. The Bethel Park Library in
Yes.
particular has been very helpful and has a class program coming up actually for this very thing
Yeah.
for homeschoolers called Database Discovery. And I can't remember the date right now, but if you check out their
I'm gonna have to make
website
a note.
to show you just
Yes.
everything that you can access with your library card
Yes.
to,
And
to
the
help.
community center has been amazing
Yeah,
in supporting
they have
us.
been.
They
We're very
have,
fortunate in this area. They have been very supportive.
Yes.
Yeah, they have. So it can get expensive if you're going to buy like lots of different types of books and whatnot. And if you want everything brand new, you're going to pay a little bit more for that. But you can buy books used as well. And if you have multiple children, you can save those textbooks that you have from the higher grades so that your kids can reuse those. But you could also go to the Goodwill and you can find globes there and materials
Surprisingly,
and whatnot.
you can find a lot at the Goodwill.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can. So it can be, you can spend as little or as much as possible.
Right.
You know, you just got to think on your budget. Okay, what do you have?
Well, I had the is homeschooling expensive, which you touched
Okay.
on, and yes, you know you can do it cheap or you can do it expensive. But
Yeah.
also, someone was asking, can a parent work full time in homeschool? I've never worked full time in homeschooled, but I've
Yes.
seen it done. So it's not impossible.
Right.
But I think cyber school would probably be a better option for someone that wants to
Yes.
homeschool but still wants to work because the burden is less on you.
Yes.
The teachers teach, and all you have to do is just really check the grades and make sure they're doing what they need to do. So yes, it's possible, but I've never tried it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, there's so many what ifs in that scenario the age of the child, because if they're old enough that, again, they're self-led, they can sort of do it on their own. There have been situations where they're single parents too, and the mother
Yes.
has to work full time,
Yes.
and they still do it. So yeah, again, I don't
Working
have
from home.
personal I don't have personal experience myself with full time, and I have the support of my husband, and so but every situation is different. But yes, I also know people who do it, and I'm not sure how, but they make it work, and
Yes.
so.
We
No.
have some-
All right. Speaking of family, how do you handle disapproving relatives and neighbors?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Very popular one.
It is. I guess kind of like with everything else, huh? We all have, areas of our lives where we might have input from the aunt or the uncle or whatever. I know something that we interact or happens to us a lot. We get the questions that only adults needing Google on their phone can answer, but they ask my
Yes,
children.
as though you should know.
Is that the
because-
child should know,
Yeah.
because then that will prove that they've had a decent education. I just compassionately, as well as we can. And I always encourage my children to not overshare anything that they don't feel like they have to. If they're uncomfortable answering a
point,
question, they
yes.
don't have to answer the question. But that's true of anything, not just homeschooling.
Because it can be invasive, the question.
It can. And I try to not have a chip on my shoulder about it. When we started off, before we actually started off, I would read these things online and was trying to get a feel for it. And I kept thinking, why are these people so aggressive? Why are they, because sometimes people kind of homeschool families can kind of come off closed off. But I think we have all had personal experiences where now being in it for a few years, I kind of get it. But I still try to be as authentic as possible and leave myself open, pretty open, so that people know that they can ask me any questions. I mean, that's why we're here.
Yes,
So,
for sure.
to be that for other people, because sometimes you can't get that in the homeschool community because of disapproving. Whether it's at a grocery store in the middle of the day and it's like, are you off today? Or,
Yeah, that's a common
I never really noticed how much that happened until we started homeschooling. But I guess like just in anything else, there's lots of topics in life that can draw disapproval from people,
Yes.
but just teaching them to handle it, being respectful and compassionate, and
Yeah. I think another good point too to think about as well is just at home in general, like if it's you and your husband, or your husband and wife, and one of them is on board with homeschooling, another one is not. That is sometimes a conversation and a discussion that could take months or years sometimes. But I think as long as your family at home, you guys are on board with homeschooling, and you can kind of confront everybody else as a team,
Right.
grandparents and aunts and uncles and everyone else. As long as you've got that strong structure at home, you're off to a good start.
That's a great point,
Yeah.
because sometimes there is that division right at the core.
Yes.
And if the foundation is shaky,
Yes.
it's going to make it a lot harder. So
To build
having
on,
those
yes.
conversations beforehand, and
Yes.
Being on the same
really
page.
being on the same page, and really trying to see it from your partner's perspective, that there's a lot, that they're taking on, and so not sort of using the threat of maybe, because there's an ego there as well that's involved. It can be very crushing to somebody if your own spouse is questioning your ability
Yes.
to homeschool. So
And
Yes.
sometimes they just need to see it in work.
Right.
Take them to some of the events. Let
Yeah.
them see the curriculum. Let them meet other homeschool families so they can see what it actually is.
Yes. And sometimes it's going to be kind of a long road to sell family members and in-laws and your own parents, As soon as you start out in kindergarten or first grade, they're absolutely convinced it's a bad idea. But then as the years pass by, they come over and they see how well-mannered your child is. Of course, public school kids are well-mannered
Sure.
too. But you're able to defend your choice because they see how intelligent your kid is and how much they've proven, and not that you have to provide exam results, but the long road will show them that that it is a good choice and it has been beneficial to your child, and sometimes it just takes time.
Well, and
to
every
learn that.
homeschool child isn't going to be brilliant. So you
That's
can't
true,
let that
yes.
hold you back, if your
Right.
child isn't reading at 4
Mhm.
and they're
Right.
saying, well, he's not reading because of your instruction. Or,
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's a learning disability.
Yes.
So yeah, they're not going to absolutely be brilliant just because they're homeschooled.
Yes.
Right.
But you can still tailor it. That's the beauty.
Right.
Tailor it to their level.
Yeah, and that's a good jumping off point a little bit about, why it's good to, homeschool. Maybe some of your kids might have special needs. They might need to take longer with them. And you can have them at home and you can show them compassion and patience while you slow down some lessons. And that might not be something that a teacher at school has the time to do because they have so many demands. But
And they won't have to feel that stigma of
Yes.
what they do struggle with.
Yes.
It's not a thing. I don't even, when my children have had struggles, I never gave it a title.
yes.
I
Right.
just,
Yes, exactly. You won't say that they need remediation or anything like
Right.
that. And something I like too about homeschooling is when something's not learned, it's just something that's not learned. It's not punitive. It's not a failure. It's just something we need to slow down with a little bit. Something was missed. So if something's not going too well, like a math concept or reading concept, something with languages, you have the time to slow it down and lovingly just kind of look at the problem and break it down into smaller pieces, make it take longer.
Yeah.
And you have the time for that when you homeschool. All right, so we got a couple more here. Let's see here. One of them I have here is, how do you know what to do each day and year for homeschooling?
that's a big one.
And a good guideline is the Pennsylvania.gov website. Follow those guidelines and the time mandates, and you set a schedule. Make sure that you're covering what you have to for, like we said, fire safety before, and English and math and all the rest in histories. You cover those things, but what will make things fun for your child too is doing the fun things as well, because it's educational. We saw a video on Pinterest a few months ago rather, and it was about the flammability of Doritos potato chips. And so what I'm like, there's a science experiment here. So we made it into a science experiment, and I want you all to know that I did email the Bethel Park Fire Department to make sure that I was okay to start a fire on my sidewalk. But we did. Using scientific observation, we lit flaming hot Cheetos on fire, Doritos, salt and vinegar and everything to see the flammability of potato chips. And we were 100% engaged. Not only was my son engaged, I was engaged.
Yeah.
It was so fun. And we took pictures and that's what we did. And it counted as science, obviously, and writing because we wrote down the results. And that's, I don't know, do what you have to do.
Yeah.
But do what's going to be fun for you and your kid as well.
Sure.
But also, I wanted to add,
Yeah.
if you just have no idea, you're not that creative,
Yes.
and you just really need a guideline, there's some great books that detail per grade what you should be teaching them, even giving novels that you should read.
Yes.
I can't think of names off the top of my head, but
Sure.
there are so many books that really give you the guidelines that you
Yeah.
need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For
We
sure.
really are fortunate to be homeschooling in the time in the current setting and
Amen.
climate that we are in.
People
First of
are
all, in
paid.
terms of legality of it,
Yes.
not having to other people before us forge that path.
They sure did.
And some people still are not fortunate enough to be able to do that, losing their children if they decide to homeschool in other countries, obviously.
Yes.
But also, like you said, at the tip of our fingers, we have access to so many unbelievable resources. So, but I'm laughing about your, flaming Doritos. That gets back to our disapproving neighbors question.
There's the
We've been
homeschoolers
guilty
again.
of doing some oddball things, with experimentation
Sure.
and 3 young boys, and and I can only imagine what those neighbors think. But they're learning, right?
Yeah.
Learning,
Yes.
learning is sometimes messy, so that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
But something you touched on too was that we are able to do it. And I know in Pennsylvania in particular, they're trying to change some laws.
Peace
Yes.
ever.
And they are trying to get rid of that really fabulous option of cyber school.
Yes.
And that will really cause a lot of families to struggle if they get rid of that option. So people need to get out there. They need to go to the hearings. They need to be vocal
Yes.
about what it's adding to our community and how many people it's helping.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely want to talk to your representatives about that. Even if you do just a Google search on PA Cyber in Pennsylvania, you're going to come up with that. And there are autofill emails that you can complete according to your address. And those emails, they contain a text that brings to the attention to your representatives about what a good thing PA Cyber is and how many people it helps out. So that's one of the things you can definitely do. But that's, yeah, touching on that, there's a lot of, we follow the laws here in Pennsylvania for homeschooling, but they change a lot sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to keep track. And
Right.
most recently was the change from the compulsory school age. It used to be from 8 to 17, but what is it? What are they trying to make it now? Sam?
6 to 18.
6 to 18. And so,
And
yeah,
that goes into effect, as far as I know,
Yes.
at the 2020-21 school year.
yes,
And there are, honestly, Pennsylvania was one of the last states to come around to this, so we've been fortunate there where we've been able to hold that off. There are pros and cons to it. Effective 2020-21 school year,
Yes.
it's 6 to 18.
yes, okay.
So then we do the portfolios and affidavits, everything we have been doing prior, but for
Yes.
younger. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we'll have to do that. Do you have
Yeah.
a question? What is that?
I do. Can my child play sports at school? So, my understanding is yes. I mean, it depends on. Thankfully, Tim Tebow. We always hear about Tim Tebow.
Yes,
a lot
we
of
do.
a lot
Yeah.
of those laws that are coming through, thanks to him, who was homeschooled. You should be able to. It depends on your school district. Now, I don't know that we have any issues here. With that. There are certain districts that may be a little bit more inflexible with that, but your child should be able to,
Yes.
as far as I know,
Yeah,
participate
for
in
traditional
extracurricular.
Yeah, I think that's for traditional
Right.
homeschooling as well as the private tutor. But is that an option with PA Cyber?
It is.
It is?
So PA Cyber doesn't get all of the funds for that student.
Okay.
I believe it's 80% goes to the cyber charter school to their
Okay.
funds, and then 20% remains in the district, and it's for that purpose. Things that the student might utilize at their public school.
Yeah, so I think probably the best way to find out is get a hold of your school district office if you are homeschooling, and give them a call and find out whether or not your children can participate in those local sports.
But don't take no for an answer out the gate. If they tell
Right.
you no, make sure that you know that that's true and not just them trying to keep you from it.
Yes. Yeah, and there's other ways that your child can participate in sports.
Yes.
That
Right.
is independent of the school district. We've got here in Bethel Park, we've got homeschool basketball. It's very, it's very casual.
Yeah.
We do our own games and whatnot, but there's other things you can do, like
There are leagues.
I was
We
just
just came
gonna
from a
say there
homeschool
are
soccer
leagues.
league
yeah,
that was developed here. So
yeah, there's many different things here. And living here in Bethel Park, we've got the wonderful Montour Trail here. My son and I are fans. We run there a lot.
beautiful.
There's lots to do here, and there's hiking groups. There's homeschool hiking groups. So
Yeah.
Skating, you can go roller
homeschool
skating.
skating, yes, at Neville Island. We partake in that a lot. So yes, your child can be homeschooled and still be involved in sports with at the school or
Right.
outside of the school.
And not just sports, other additional extracurriculars like band, chorus, that sort of thing. My
Yes.
understanding is that at certain ages as well, you can also become involved in those if you would
Yes.
like
But
to
they're
participate
trying
at
to
the
make that
school level.
harder in the schools, so it's how
Oh.
they make the elective.
Okay.
So band is one that they're really starting to not let the kids partake in. I
That's
don't know how
unfortunate.
they do that legally or
I don't know.
why that's a thing, but that is happening.
But like you said, though, getting back to it, just sort of not taking no for an answer, not meaning that we go that we're anti-public school or we're, they have rules and regulations they have to
Yes.
follow as well, but not taking no as an answer in terms of if you want that experience for your child, we are the masters of their education right now. So we
Yeah.
create it, and we have done that by a lot of these things that you're
Yes.
talking about. It's a collaboration of like-minded parents that
Yes.
say, hey, we want this for our children. Just because our children are homeschooled doesn't mean that they can't experience some of the formative things that people look at, whether it's
Prom,
prom,
yeah.
whether
Yes.
it's, I don't know,
even
whatever it
field
might be.
trips.
Field trips,
Field
right.
trips, and that's
And we do that for them, we
The
make
Google
it a
field
point, gym
trip was
classes.
amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to say that.
yeah.
But you get to do
But
really
yeah,
cool
you get to
things
do
like
really
go
cool
see the
things,
Google
so,
office.
yeah.
Yeah, and so those things still happen when you homeschool, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So,
All right, I think we're back to you with questions.
I think I ran out of questions. I think I gave you the bulk of them. So yeah, so you got.
Those
Can
were
you
the
think of
hot
any
button
other-
questions.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm trying.
Yes.
Can I homeschool my child if I don't have a teaching degree?
Ooh, that's a good one too.
It depends.
It comes
on,
up a lot.
Yeah, so you don't have to have a teaching degree. You don't have to have a degree at all. If you're doing traditional homeschooling, you do have to have a high school diploma. You have to have a high school diploma. If you're going to do the private tutor option, you have to have a Pennsylvania teaching certificate. And I don't have the actual regulations on hand, but if you follow the links that we will provide, we will for sure tell you where to go so you can find out more information on that. But no, you do not have to have a teaching degree to do traditional homeschooling. And even PA Cyber is a little bit more casual.
Well, the PA Cyber, they actually have certified teachers that do the teaching.
That's great.
So they,
Yeah.
if that's a concern for you, then that would be a good option.
Which that kind of leads into this last question I have here.
Sure.
A lot of people worry about accreditation with homeschooling curriculums, and will my child be able to get into college,
Yes.
and all of those sorts of things. So yes, absolutely, your child can get into college if they're homeschooled. In fact, there are a lot of Ivy League colleges that are going out of the way to try to dedicate applications reaching out to homeschoolers specifically. You have listed here Yale, Dartmouth, Princeton, Brown. I know Harvard just did a few.
Yes.
There were a few articles done about students that were accepted at Harvard. So don't let the fear, I guess, of the unknown prevent you from doing this, because they're very well-rounded children that come out of homeschooling, and sometimes they're sought after, as you can see with some
Yes.
of these Ivy League schools.
And
so,
you can get them a physical diploma.
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
Because that's
you can.
important to many people, that
Yes. Right.
document itself.
Yes.
And
Right.
now the military is also allowing homeschoolers to join the ranks. So that's something that's in the works. I don't know exactly how
Yes.
official it is, but I heard talk of that, and I think that was another thing that
Yeah.
people were worried about. If you want to join the armed forces,
Yeah.
will homeschooling keep you from it? And no, it won't.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, well, with homeschooling general, there's a lot of questions to ask. It's a scary thing to jump into, especially if you're not a homeschool person yourself, you weren't homeschooled yourself. You might be daunted when you see everything and all the options, but build familiarity with it. Go to the website, to the pa.gov to find out what you have to do. Go to Facebook. There are tons
Yes.
of Facebook
Yes.
groups on homeschooling and websites, and don't be scared to ask questions of homeschoolers. I love talking about homeschooling to
Yeah.
anybody who wants to know about it. As a matter of fact, if you have more questions for us, anything at all, you can reply to this video on YouTube and just post a question on there. We'll do our best to get back with you on that.
There's one last question here. I don't know
Sure.
if you want me to ask pose it
ahead.
to all of you. It says, what do you wish you'd known when
Oh,
you got started homeschooling?
It's a good way to end it, yes.
It is a good way to end it.
Sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. Again, it's on-the-job training. You train as you go, and it's just like parenting, It's a work in progress. I think you're always going to worry. I think even if your child graduates and goes off to Ivy League, I think you're still going to worry about your kid. You're going to still worry that you did the best thing, but that's normal. We just do our best every day. What about you?
I would say don't feel like you have to stick with one thing. Sometimes you can stick with it because you think that's important to
Yes.
stay, even if it's not working.
Yeah.
I think I stuck with some things too long and wished I would have been a little more brave
Yes.
in branching out from that.
Yes.
So
That's a good point. I like that you said bravery.
Yes.
You said that it's easy and hard. I would say that, not to sound overconfident, because there's definitely days where
Sure.
it's challenging, but part of my own reservations that held me back for a long time I realized were much easier. It was much easier than I thought that it could be to get started. I realized that my children are learning every day, despite
Yes.
what our day looks like,
Yes.
and that there is a very large network of people locally that you just have to be brave and kind of
Yes.
step out of your comfort zone and learn, and whether it's on Facebook or whether it's at a community local community
Yes.
group, whatever it might be, that there is a community out there and that you're not alone in doing it, because it can feel very isolating starting out as the educator, not
Sure.
as the child, but feeling like I'm
Yes.
going to be in this alone. Who do I bounce questions off of? Just knowing that there's great people like this and resources like this.
Yes,
you know?
I know it's very helpful. And not only that, you don't have to do this forever. You
Right.
can give homeschool a shot
Yes.
for a year or 2 years, maybe go back to regular school. And we've seen a lot of people come back to homeschooling, but you
Right.
can't go back and forth. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it forever, not for every grade. It might be a little confusing, but if you try it, and you find that you like it, it's wonderful. If you try it and you find it doesn't work for your family, you can go back to public school.
Right.
And I think most people have a moment in their journey of homeschooling that they feel like they want to give up.
Yes.
Almost every parent
Yes.
I talk to has had that time where they were
Yes.
sure that they were going to end
Yes.
this journey.
Mhm.
And I just wish I had known that it was more common
Yes.
instead of
Right.
just something that I
Mhm.
struggled with.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
don't give up. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Well, wonderful. Well, We thank you so much for joining us, for watching this, and we enjoyed it. I love talking about homeschooling, but if you have any questions, pose them to us. We'll do our best to get back with you on them. But anyway, I'm Cindy. Thank you so much for joining us.